YouTube, Salivate Metal here, and this article was brought to my attention from our very own CCT, otherwise known as Cyber Curtain Twitcher, and this talks about countries that have nearly eliminated cash from circulation. Now, I don't know if I agree with all aspects of this article, but I'll post it in the link in the description below and let you judge for yourself. But it certainly does make some valid points about moving away from cash and the cost of cash and what's happening in different nations and how certain nations are even talking about banning change and certain cash, certain bills. Like I had posted a video previously about India banning, made illegal the 500 and 1,000 rupee. And it looks like other nations are moving in that direction as well, and if not mandating the elimination of certain currencies or certain denominations of their currency, promoting heavily the use of credit cards and other digital transactions. And of course, the fear that's brought about in this article is government mandate, but also traceable transactions. And of course, a lot of us like the security that's involved with being able to be use cash and the like. I know I still use cash for a lot of transactions, but there's really no way to avoid digital transactions if you're going to make large purchases or even some small purchases. Basically require some sort of digital transactions, and not all of that we can blame on the government. With that being said, the article points to another study here by the Harvard, I believe it's the Harvard Business Review. And basically, I'm going to kind of just read through this, which I think is quite fascinating, and this kind of gives more of a balanced approach, and it talks about some of the psychology and the like behind it. It's been nearly 300 years since paper money became accepted as legal tender. While much has changed about how we make and sell and buy goods, cash has stuck around. It's been only recently that the road to a wider cashless society has started to really take shape. From apps such as PayPal, Venmo, Square Cash, and mobile payment platforms in other nations, and Apple Pay, these are signs that cash is following the path of other information goods, such as printed photographs, cassette tapes, and DVDs, and being replaced by digital alternatives. Or as Samantha B., host of Full Frontal, put it recently, I'd like to talk a little bit about money. For those of you who haven't heard of it, it's like Venmo for old people. But all of this still may leave us with a question. If cash is inherently broken, why isn't inherently broken? Why fix it? Policymakers and economists such as Harvard's Ken Rogoff have made elegant arguments for the benefit of a cashless society. Economic uncertainty around the globe has raised concerns that consumers could take cash out of banks, especially in negative interest rate environments, and hoard it. Eliminating cash is one way to reduce that risk. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway are already considering it, while the European Central Bank is considering getting rid of large denomination bills. Cash, according to a recent MasterCard study, accounts for 85% of global consumer transactions. Cash has stubbornly resisted going the way of digital extinction. Paper currency is ubiquitous. It is also untraceable and universally accepted, except in some circumstances usually involving large payments. As I mentioned before, for many users, cash equates to a sense of security, and for many it is a sense of independence from government oversight. The rise of cybercrime and growing concerns about the ability of public agencies to look through digital records will add to the unwillingness among many people to let go of paper money. The migration to a cashless society is far from being either uniform or universal. Whereas most Swedes are embracing a cashless future, along with an unlikely peer group that includes both Somaliland and South Korea, some of Sweden's neighbors, in response to EU's increasing regulations on restricting cash usage, are demanding a constitutional right to pay in cash, fueled by concerns of negative interest rates and perceived loss of privacy that comes with digital money. For some countries, the transition has been very rapid and to scale that is without precedent. In 2009, over two-thirds of all commerce payments in China were cash on delivery, thanks in no small part to the mobile wallet wars along with BAT, Baidu, etc. Mobile payments today accounted for 70% of all e-commerce transaction in China. The article goes along here. Let's see if we can catch up with some of these other things. We wanted to know the answer to some of these questions, so we analyzed the cost of using cash using a database extended across 154 countries. And it talks about it there, and there's an interesting map that basically measures the cost of getting cash around the world, mapping the level of difficulty, including transportation and ATM fees. And here we have 3 different categories of high, medium, low, and you can see on this map that the United States, Russia, Australia, and other nations basically have a median cost levels, while other nations surprisingly are low. Canada being one in the Middle East, others, but the high costs are in much of Europe. And I think I think that is part and parcel to the European Union having to spread money, its currency throughout its member states there. And then we also have India and China as well in that group as well. So very interesting indeed. And so here is how the article ends. So they propose 2 factors that are useful in offering guidance to those working to enable cashless societies and allocate resources optimally. We first suggest prioritizing countries where the consumer costs of cash are high, since consumers will be the prime adopters of digital alternatives. Next, we suggest a focus on those countries that are more likely and ready to migration to a cashless alternative. To gauge digital readiness, we use our Digital Evolution Index. The combination creates a mapping of cashless sweet spots. So this study has posted this graph which talks about the readiness based off the absolute cash score and the Digital Evolution Index score. And you can see the U.S. is high on the Index Evolution score, not surprisingly, and it's around the middle for the absolute cost of cash, as we saw from the map earlier. So it basically talks about which countries are ready for this transition. And of course, we know that in the end, cash is sort of the middle road for us in the precious metals community. Cash is essentially independent and can't be tracked, can't be traced, and it's still used for transaction. It's recognized throughout our nations, but silver and gold are the ultimate in because the dollars and the other denominations of other currencies around the world are tied to something, mostly fiat these days, and they float as well too, and they can go to zero. The cash can go to zero, as we've seen in other nations like Zimbabwe right now, in Venezuela, and Germany in the 20s. So cash isn't king. Gold and silver really is king. Maybe cash would be a prince or a low-level queen of some sort, but nonetheless, cash is something that gives us the freedom of transaction, whereas digitally may have convenience, and but there's a fear that it could lead to being heavily tracked or regulated much easier by either large banks or governments. So post your thoughts below. Sorry for the long-winded video here, but I did want to read some of this article, and I didn't read it all, but I'll post the link to it in the description below, and you can judge for yourself. Post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.